Doesn't do much with it. Doesn't need to. It's just very pop, pop, pop. That's all you need. Hey, so today I wanted to show you how I navigate the fretboard with Octaves, how I use it to unlock it or shrink it or really just make it more manageable so it becomes easier to play the things I want to play. Now, a lot of people probably already know what octaves are or some patterns on where they are on the guitar. So I'm going to show you on a PDF where I've mapped out all of those possible patterns that I think exist on the guitar. We're going to use some examples from some Fish songs later on that you probably heard at the beginning, how Trey uses some octaves in some of his compositions and some of his improvisation. I'm excited to get into it. Little lesson on octaves today. Here we go. When you get a second, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. If you're interested in signing up to our Patreon or taking individual lessons with me, you can either give me a call or find all that info in the description of this video below. Okay, so how do we unlock the fretboard or shrink it or make it more manageable? Now, on this PDF that I'm going to put little strips of it up on the screen here, we're going to start with open strings, right? The most common way or the first way we usually learn what octaves are through open strings. We have this open E string, and then we have the 12th fret, E above that. So that's technically what an octave is. Here we've got a C going to a C, right? 12 half steps higher is a C to a C, that's an octave. And then a octave above that is another C. So you could think of it one of two ways. It's either the two notes that is the octave or the distance really between the two notes is how I like to think of it. Here we've got a G going to a G, that's one octave. And then G to another G is another octave. Or you could play it as a chord, like this D8 here is a D to a D, and that's 12 half steps apart. So that's a little bit of the theory, really simple. It's just the same note, not the same pitch, but the same pitch, 12 half steps up, it gets the same letter value. If it's a B flat to B flat, A to A, etc. So now let's show you how we unlock the fretboard. Now on the single string, 0 to 12, because each fret is a half step, you go up 12 frets from open, you've got an E to an E, and if you go up 12 more frets, if you have a guitar with 24 frets, you get another E. So there's 3 E's right there. And we can do that on all 6 strings, 0, 12, 24, 0, 12, 24, G, 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 B, 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 E, E, E. And we did that with all 6 strings. Now, right off the bat, what we've done is we've cut the guitar into 2 guitars. That's really how I like to think about this upper register or this second octave that we get to play in, which most people assume we play lead stuff in, and they're not wrong. A lot of us do that to get in that higher register because it cuts through the band when you're taking a solo. Now, what number did we add from 0 to get to 12? Well, 12. So if you're on the 3rd fret and you want to play a G in that higher register, that's kind of scary for intermediate guitar players to memorize all the notes up there. Once you get all these memorized down here on each string, all you got to do is add 12. So if you're at 3rd fret, G, 12 plus 3 is 15. Now you can play whatever lick you play down here. If say it was the major scale, you could play it up 12 frets at the 15th and have your major scale. In all these examples today, I'm going to use the major scale. Okay, so that was the single string octave. Next is the adjacent open string. This is a little weird because of the tuning of the guitar goes perfect fourth, perfect fourth, perfect fourth, major third, and then perfect fourth again. So we're going to do all the perfect fourths first and then do that kind of wonky major third. So from the open E of the E string to the 7th fret of the A string, that's 1 octave there. Notice that's the same pitch as that 12th fret on the E string. Same thing happens on all of the perfect fourth adjacent strings. A to D, you can go A to A, if that's 0 to 7, D to D, to the G string. And then we're going to skip to the 2nd string there, the B to the E string. That was also 0 to 7th fret. Now let's go back to the G to B relationship. Now remember that relationship is a major third tuning difference. So we have a open G to a 8th fret. So we go 0, 7, 0, 7, 0, 7, 0, 8, back to 0, 7 for that 2nd to 1st string. Perfect fourth tuning again. Now you can play a scale on one string. It's kind of a difficult task, but it's really good for your ear, and it's really good for us guitar players to see things linear like we would on a piano for the theory's sake of it. So for the open string, we could have played a major scale starting on the G string, and then up the octave, Now, between the E and the A string, can we play a major scale? Yeah, we'll have to do some skipping around. Not the ideal finger pattern that we want to use. There's better ones that I'm about to show you. Now, the most common string skipping shapes here are the 6th to 4th to 2nd string, or the 6th to 4th to 1st string, and then the 5th, 3rd, and 1st string. So here we go. We're going to move to the note G on the 3rd fret of the E string. So we're going to go over 2 strings and up 2 frets. So I started on the 3rd fret, 6th string, over 2 strings to the 4th string, and then up 2 frets. So I have G, G. You can play it with 1st and 3rd finger, 2nd and pinky, 1st and pinky, whatever's comfortable for you. Now the octave above that G on the D string, the 4th string, is also 2 strings over, but because of that tuning difference, it's 3 frets up. Right? And that same pitch there on the B string, 8th fret, 5 frets down over on the E string, is that 3rd fret. So you could either think of this as a 6-4-2 or a 6-4-1. Right? So you could play major scale from the 6 to 4. Right? Or you could continue that from the 4 to the 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? And I use the octaves to kind of map out, have little markers, little benchmarks of where we split things up in the octave world based on the chromatic scale, even though I'm playing the major scale today. How about from that 4th string to the B string? Right? There's another way to play the same thing. It's the same as this, same exact pitches and notes as this. The timbre, the quality or tone of the instrument will sound a little bit different depending on where you're playing on the fretboard. Here are the octaves G as well, but on the 5th, 3rd, and 1st strings, way up here in the 9th position, we're going to play fret 10 on the A string, and then 2 frets over, 2 frets up, just like we did from our 6th to our 4th string. It's the same as the 5th to the 3rd string. 10 to 12 on the G string. 10 on the A string, 12 on the G string. And then from that G string to the high E string, 3rd string to 1st string, it's 2 strings over, 3 frets up, which was the same relationship as the 4th to the 2nd string. It's because of that major 3rd tuning difference. Now the major scale with both of those octaves, 5th to 3rd, 3rd to 1st. Now some less common string skipping octave shapes are going 6th to 3rd string, 5th to 2nd string, and 4th to 1st string. So let's start with the C here, 8th fret. Before we would go from 6th to 4th string, 8 to 10, right? 2 strings over, 2 frets up. This way we're going to go 3 strings over and 3 frets down. So it's a 3-3 rule, but the opposite way. 3 strings over, 3 frets down. So that'd be 8th fret to 5th fret there. Maybe a less common shape. And can you play a major scale that way? You absolutely can. Now, how about the 5th string to the 2nd string, this G here, to this G here? That goes 3 strings over, 2 frets down because of the tuning difference. And that would be G to G from the 10th fret of the A string to the 8th fret of the B string. 2nd string, 5th string to 2nd string. You can play a major scale that way as well. A little bit different. You're kind of going backwards and diagonally, which is not the typical way or the first way we usually learn how to play a major scale. Look how there's 3 different ways I showed you. You can play laterally across, you can play vertically up the fretboard, or you can play kind of diagonally and backwards. And even though you're going diagonally and backwards, you're still ascending in pitch. And lastly, we've got our C again, that 10th fret, 3 strings over and 2 frets down to the high E string, 8th fret. Now that was part of that first 6-4-1 shape that I showed you, but let's do it in a vacuum of just the 4 to 1 string sets, and we can play the major scale. Now remember, you can play it this way too. Or on 1 string. Now we learned that kind of through the lens of single notes, scales, right? You can also play any of those combinations if they're comfortable as a chord itself. So let's take the G and G up here, 10th fret and 12th fret. Right? You play that G down here. This G here. This G here. This G here. Those are all octaves, right? Playing it as a chord, right? Octave doesn't mean you play it as a chord. It really means the distance between. We just happen to be playing the dyad of something 8. If it's this, in this case, a G8. There is an option there with the open string too, for a more kind of country bluegrass feel. All right, so that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, this one, and that one. Let me know if I missed one. Okay, so I wanted to go a little bit deeper into how I use this to unlock the fretboard or shrink it or make it more manageable. One thing you have to do is know what the chromatic scale is. Know all 12 notes in the chromatic scale, right? And just practice them going from the open string to the 12th fret in your first octave, and say them when you ascend. Say the sharps: E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. And then on the way back down, instead of saying the sharps, say the flats, because the action of a flat is to go down in pitch. And we're going to go down the fretboard this way: E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E. Now, I couldn't help myself there trying to sing the pitch. Now, that chromatic scale works starting on any one of those notes. You just pick up where you left off. If it's A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B, C, C sharp, E, F, F sharp. Starting from the open string there, I did just a couple of notes on each string there. And then you can practice your chromatic scale ascending and descending. Now, that's crucial of an assist to this octave kind of routine, right? So once you get even just on the 6th string or the 5th string, because you now know all of those patterns and combinations that I showed you with adjacent strings or a couple strings over, you can, if you map out just the bottom 6th string and the 5th string, you can map out all the strings on the entire fretboard. And obviously in the second register, you just add 12 to everything. So that's really the key there. Chromatic scale, know all the notes from a theory standpoint that exist in Western music, and then memorize what they are on the 6th string and the 5th string, and then start playing with these adjacent string combinations and 2 or 3 string combinations over. That way you can really manage the fretboard and start playing scales in between them. So you start to realize, wait, there's just 12 notes on this entire thing, even though it's 6 times 24, 22, depending on what kind of guitar you have. Okay, now I want to show you some examples of how to play that. First guy who comes to mind is Wes Montgomery. If you play jazz or blues, you can play the blues scale, let's say in A, right, which is a really cool way. It just sounds cool. There's no better adjective than octaves played in the blues scale with slides. Right, some really fun sounds come out of that, playing the blues scale or minor pentatonic. Now I'm using thumb and first finger, but you can use a pig for a little more attack that way, a little more percussive attack. Now those shapes, the 6th and 4th, 5th and 3rd, 4th and 2nd, and then the 3rd and 1st are kind of the go-to shapes for being able to play octaves. Could you do the 6th to 2nd or 6th to 3rd? Yeah, it's a little harder though. I'd have to practice that a little bit more to try to implement that into my playing. Or the 4th to 2nd. Kind of making it up there as I go along. But yeah, those other more common shapes are a lot easier to introduce into your playing as far as trying to play lead lines with the chords. Sliding is really fun. We've heard Jimi Hendrix do it. I don't know if it's Castles Made of Sand or Little Wing or something like that. Let me know in the comments which one I'm forgetting. But he uses octaves and he's sliding them up some scale. I forget what song it is once again. Now you can run an entire scale with octaves. Let's take G major scale. You can do that up the same string. Right, and it has a pretty hypnotic, just cool sounding effect. The effect of the chorus of two notes that are the same note name, but an octave apart, either an octave lower or higher, or several octaves lower or higher. Which brings me to my next point. You can compose, if you're in a band and you're writing, somebody plays the lick, you can play it up higher. Now I did it 2 octaves higher, and it can have a really cool effect. How about in the middle? Now Trey uses the octave to start the song Wedge. Can't remember if the tonal center is A or B. I'm gonna take a stab and say that it's B, and he'll play it on the song Wedge. Right, just those first 2 notes. So that's one example of how Trey uses octaves. Here's one that I found that I just happened to remember hearing it live when I was listening to a live stream. They did this show at the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, and they went into an almost disco funk type of thing, electro funk style, and Trey started playing these octaves, I believe on C. All right, let's just listen to what he does here. Letting it breathe, just thinking of an idea, just letting it come. There it was. Little octave, just the 3rd and 1st string with C. Might be 5th and 3rd, but I think it's 3rd and 1st. And he's simple. He doesn't do much with it. Doesn't need to. It's just very pop, pop, pop. That's all you need. Thanks for watching, and take care.